Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another absolute fun podcast that I'm going to have this morning of Rise Urban Nation. When I say we're going to bring the sunshine in this morning, we literally bringing the sunshine in. We got a special guest in the building, Sunshine Foss. How are you doing this morning?
I am great. How are you doing? It's Monday. It's a beautiful rainy day out here in New York. So, you got to stay positive.
Hey, you gotta stay positive, even on those rainy days. I see even you got your Black Girl Magic bottles behind you.
Of course, of course.
Always stay ready, dressed, fresh, ready to impress.
Ready. We are ready for today.
I just realized too, we both got our black hoodies on this morning. Mine is Good Trouble. I don't know what yours is.
Oh, that's a good one. Mine is Corporate Leisure.
Okay, all right. What's this Corporate Leisure? Tell me about that.
So Corporate Leisure is a friend who created a beautiful brand.
Nice.
And it's just everything from like corporate leisure wear, where it's hoodies and tees and everything in between. But it's like some of the dopest, graphics and fun. It's real and comfortable too. So that's a good thing.
Okay, I'm gonna have to check out Corporate Leisure. That's a good plug.
Leisure. Yes, it's absolutely like one of my favorite brands right now.
Okay, I'm gonna have to check them out. Thanks for letting us know about the Corporate Leisure. But it's all about Black Girl Magic today. So, this is how I want to start it off. Like I start off every episode. For the people who don't know who you are, please tell them, who is Sunshine? And I know that's a deep question, but you could go as far as wide as you want to go with that question.
Okay, so I'm Sunshine Foss. I am the creator and owner of Happy Cork, Brooklyn, which is kind of grown like I would have never imagined. But Happy Cork is the largest assortment of Black-owned wines and spirits anywhere in the country. But prior to that, I am a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a business owner, and I guess I'm also from the Caribbean, so I rep my Caribbean roots hard.
Where from?
I'm from St. Lucia, the beautiful island of St. Lucia.
St. Lucia's in the building.
St. Lucia's in the building. It is one of the most beautiful islands. I'm not knocking anybody else's island, but St. Lucia is definitely like a gem that everyone needs to discover.
That all the other islands, they're gonna go hard when they hear this. Like
I know.
I apologize in advance to all my Jamaicans. Me love your curry goat, spice bun and cheese and all that. But St. Lucia is the best.
I loved all the islands. However, St. Lucia, we are simply beautiful. We are the Helen of the West Indies. So I think we coined that term for a reason. But yeah, it's definitely a beautiful island.
Yeah, I love it. So how does a girl from St. Lucia come out here and stir up the wine business?
Oh gosh, I don't even know. Like, to be honest with you, I tell everyone the wine and spirits industry found me. My background is in design and fashion design, and then home textiles, and then real estate, and then now retail business, 2 retail businesses, as a matter of fact.
Wow, that's quite the journey. So tell me the journey. How did one lead to another and get to where you're at right now?
So for me, I think my life just takes me wherever and I go with it. But yeah, my background is in design. I went to school for fashion design, and I designed apparel for years, got out of the apparel industry, and then got into home textiles, where I designed anything from undergarments of your bed. So from like mattress protectors and pillows and everything that you would have a need, but it was all solution based. So anti-allergen and that kind of world of like real tech on the sheeting and bedding side. And then with that, got into real estate. And so my husband and I, we bought our first property in 2012, and then kind of got the bug after that, got into real estate. But at the time, we really kind of like bought and held properties. And so I kind of tried to finagle coming into the world of entrepreneurship with full-time job and taking care of properties. So
That's
Oh,
a
yep.
tough one right there.
So that was I'm the one that goes and does the trash and the sweeping up the stairs and all that good stuff. So with that, I was able to leave my full-time job,
Hmm.
got into real estate full time. Mostly again, buying properties,
Hmm.
flipping, remodeling. And then of course with that came the purchase of the building for Happy Cork.
Hmm.
And at the time, there was a liquor store here. But again, it was kind of that bulletproof glass, your typical bulletproof liquor store that's in
Hmm.
your our neighborhoods,
Yeah.
in especially in Brooklyn. And
Hmm.
so again, we had them in here for about 6 months and then they were out. And then I decided, okay, we got to rent the space out. No one wanted it. Absolutely
Hmm.
no one, because we're on a side street. So it really took like for you to venture out here, for you to be part of the
Hmm.
experience. So with that, again, we weren't getting a rental. And so I was like, okay, by 2018, if nothing's here, I'm going to put a space. And
Hmm.
what space that was gonna be, I don't know, but I knew it was already deemed for a liquor store, so I'm like, "Okay, well, maybe I can get into the wine and spirits world." I
Hmm.
went out and I asked a few wine store owners. They were like, you have to really think if you wanna be in this. It's not, the easiest industry." But with that, I was like, "I have to do something. I have to do something." And then that was the birth of Happy Cork.
Hmm.
And then a year in, we actually celebrated our year anniversary, had a beautiful celebration. And then a week later, the pandemic hits. So
Whoa.
prior to the pandemic, we were only in business for a year. So trying to get
Wow.
people to kind of like come into the space was really tough because, again, you're on a side street. We would literally stand outside and beg people to come in for tastings, which we hosted every single week on a Wednesday and Friday. You could come in and get, your little tasting on before you went
Hmm.
out. So it became that neighborhood space.
Hmm.
Um, but we were kind of like your neighborhood space. And then with the pandemic, and we were deemed essential. And by then, we already had like the largest assortment of Black owned brands because I would literally search everywhere. So we kind of became that destination space for all things, first of all, wine and spirits. And then
Hmm.
you had right after the pandemic, Black Lives Movement. So with
Hmm.
that, there was a huge push to shop Black owned, and that really kind of propelled us to who we are today.
Nice. I love that. I love that. Um, it started, seems like, by building community, and then that community grew, and then it is what it is today. Listening to your entrepreneurship journey, like, what would you say? What has been the hardest thing you've had to face in your entrepreneur journey?
I don't know. I don't see things as hard. I think I have hard every single day. The
Okay.
industry that I'm in, we are in a, you know, real different industry from what I'm used to. So for me, I have obstacles every day, but it's kind of like, okay, this obstacle. And then, I still also manage properties. So you'll have like one day a pipe bust and your
Hmm.
basement's flooded. And how do you deal with that while you're having an event at the wine store? So for me, I have like obstacles every day. So I can't dwell on it. Like my mom tells me she's like, I don't know how you just say, okay, move on, because I can't afford
Look,
to not. Like, there's too much happening in a day that I can, like, literally dwell on. So, for me, everything kind of has been just, like there's not been an easy road at all. Right
look,
down to getting the license to now you have the business up and running, trying to figure out stock, trying to figure out staff. It's
look.
it's on a daily, it's like there's something new
Yeah,
popping
I feel
up.
like that's the story of your life so far. You've always done multiple things at once. Like, either you held a job
Absolutely.
and then started a business, held two businesses. Wow, and so
Yep.
and your demeanor seems like so cool, calm, and collected. And I love your outlook. Like, oh, this is the obstacle. Let's see how we face this obstacle. How do you stay
Yep.
so grounded?
I don't know. I think it's definitely where it's just like you have one life, right? So it's
Yeah.
just gonna live your life like it were your last, and honestly, I feel like every day that you come into, like, you have a breath, it's
Hmm.
going to be a day. You're going to make
Yeah.
it a day. And whether or not it's like something tough is happening, but you figure it out, you push through, and then you realize, oh, that wasn't even that bad because
Hmm.
there's another bigger issue. So you're like, okay, now we're on to another bigger issue. But to be honest, staying grounded, I don't know. It is what I kind of live life as, it is what it is.
Hmm. Yeah. So, what? Because you seem to have found this little niche, or these niches and these recipe for success, from your your real estate business to now to the Happy Cork. Well, there's going to be some entrepreneurs that listen to this. What would you say are your top 3 tips you give a new entrepreneur who's trying to, become like you have become, becoming
I'm not there
sunshine?
yet.
Well, I
I'm
feel
there.
you. See, you say that, but you're a lot further than some of us who are just trying to just dip our toes into it.
You know what though is, I mean, being an entrepreneur, I tell people, I'm like, it literally is, you quit your 9 to 5 to work 24/7. But I think in terms of advice I would give to like a new entrepreneur, definitely know your industry,
Hmm.
research before you even, everybody has a great idea every day, but definitely know your industry, research as much as possible. But don't get stuck on the research end of it. I think a lot of people get stuck on kind of like building the business plan, developing the business before it even starts. So I think for me, I would definitely say if it's something that you think is viable and is good, at least attempt it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can fail, but you tried it, and then you can figure out for your next venture why you failed and how you can like make it better. However, I definitely think that having some sort of consistency, um, and having a different outlook on business and knowing your brand and working on your brand, because you are the brand at the end of the day.
Hmm.
No matter what, there's Happy Cork, but if I didn't create the brand and make it what I would like to experience, I don't think it would be Happy Cork what it is today. So it's
Yeah.
definitely about knowing your brand, working on the brand. Branding is super important in any industry that you're in,
Hmm.
and staying consistent and actually like putting in. There's a lot of people that want to be entrepreneurs, but you gotta like, when I tell you there's work involved, there's
Hmm.
work.
Yeah.
There's work. But I think again, going back to having a different outlook, it's really looking at how you figure out that work, and
Hmm.
not having that work take over your life, because then your brand kind of suffers.
Hmm.
Um, Again, it's not that easy, but it's easier said than done. But for sure, your branding, consistency, and like the work that you put in, it will take you all the way.
Nah.
And
Now,
also don't give up too quick. I feel
yeah,
like
I
people
think,
give up quick.
yeah, they give up too quick. Like they're right at the cusp of that, and they just need that
They're
one
right
more
at the
thing.
cusp, because I think we're in this microwave era where it's like now for
Mm.
now. But it's just like takes time. Like even when, a lot of people see Happy Cork now, we're like 3 years in. And I tell people, we launched, grand opening, beautiful opening. We had ton of people here. We sold out. I was like, oh my God, I can't wait to get new stock in. And then we opened the doors and crickets. I think we
Wow.
had like one customer the first day. And then I think for the rest of the week, we averaged like $100 a day. So, and
No.
I'm telling you, when I tell you, we would stand outside and be like, please, we're having a tasting. Come meet the brand. And again, we offer something that is so unique. A lot of people don't know these brands.
Yeah.
So it was an opportunity for our community to meet these brands. But at the same time, like, we had no one shopping, no one ordering, no one coming in. Um, but we stayed consistent.
Hmm.
And, so many times my husband would be like, okay, this is your project. What are you going to do? Decide, is this something that's good? Like, what's happening?
Yeah.
And I was just like, yeah, just give it time. Give it time. I got this. I got this. But again, it's definitely giving time to something that you know is worth it, because the outcome is going to be so different.
Yeah, the best things take time. I love that you put that microwave generation in there because I think me and you both come from the generation where when grandma or mom put food or cook food, it took like a whole day to prep that meal.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and they put it in the oven, and they want to know why it tastes so good. That's because it's been marinating for like a
It's
whole
been
day.
right. And then on top of that, it took like hours to make. And then, but you waited. There was
Yeah.
there was patience because you had to learn patience, you know?
Yeah, and that's why it came out so good. And you know, no pun intended, but the wine industry is the same way. Like, you know, those really refined and great wines. It took time to
It took
learn
time.
how to put that together and let it
Yep.
marinate and let it like get to that aged perfection, right?
But even before you put it in the bottle, like you waiting for your grapes to mature and you're waiting to harvest and then you're waiting to
Mm-hmm.
press. And then after it's pressed, then you have to like blend. And so it's all, I mean, goodness and richness takes time. That's
Mm-hmm.
all I'm gonna say because it definitely is worth it in the end. Because when you get that good bottle of wine, you don't realize that was like 3 years in the making.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think people don't realize that,
No,
and that the blood, sweat, and tears that it took just to get that one bottle.
exactly. Yep.
Right. Now, two things you mentioned. You talked about branding a little bit, but you also talked about the homework and research and all that stuff. Now, when you think about, I'm thinking about like the entrepreneurial journey. Like, what was the first thing you did when you started on your entrepreneurship journey to get into the wine space and the wine industry space? Was it the research or the branding? Which one is you feel like is the first thing anyone should do if they're trying to get into specifically this industry?
So for us, because of the type of industry that we're in, your research is first and foremost.
Mm-hmm.
Just because, so especially in New York, you have to have a space that is one, not within 200 yards of a school, a
Mm.
church, another liquor store that would be your competition. So knowing your area, one is key. And then you have to actually prove to the board that the reason why I'm building, because there's limited licenses being given. So the reason why your store would make sense being in the neighborhood that it's in or the street that it's on. So that's first and foremost, you have to do your research, right
Mm.
down to going and checking out the other liquor stores in the area, making sure that your offering is going to be different from what they're offering. Because for us, we don't carry your typical mainstream brands. So
Mhm.
already I knew that because we wanted to carry brands that were kind of like off market, unique in their own right, I knew that we would already be set apart from your other liquor stores that are in the area. But again, you have to prove to the board that there's money that's in that area that can be split between the liquor store that's it's not 200 yards away but it's maybe 400 yards away because they actually measure the circumference of your store with the four closest stores. So you have to make sure that there's enough where there's residential and really go in as like you're going to lose your shirt if you don't,
Yeah.
because what happens is you have to have the space before you even apply. Then you have to actually have renovations pretty much complete by the time that you meet with the board, because you have to show pictures of before and after, what your storage is going to look like, what the vicinity around you, or is there residential, who's going to be your customer base. So even applying for it, your research starts from the time you decide I'm going to open up a space.
Gotcha.
And then with that, you have to figure out, okay, what am I going to have on the shelves? What am I going to do that's different? With us, I knew I wanted to have wine tastings and offer minority owned brands and women owned brands. And my space was going to be not your typical bulletproof glass. So you could come in and touch the bottles. You come in,
Mhm.
there's a certain scent that's in the store. So it really touches all of your senses. It's not your typical, and I tell people, we're not your typical liquor store. We
Yeah.
are a beautiful space that just happens to carry the best liquor out.
You giving people a whole experience. Like this is like this is
Absolutely.
It's like the Disneyland of liquor,
Yep.
but
Yep.
black owned.
I tell people this is not like, oh, you come in and there's customer service. This is an entire experience. You have
Right.
people coming in. We have become that destination space. So you have people traveling from all over. So why not give that experience? We have people coming from the UK, from Cali, and they're like, oh, Happy Cork is on our bucket list. I'm like, oh, okay, our little tiny store, but okay.
Aw, I love that. I love that. Now, I want to dive into something that me and you were talking about before we even hit the record button, and I love that you're just like really big up in like the black brands and all the different uh the not so stocked and talked about brands that in your store. As I just to give the people who are listening, we are talking about. I just went to an event probably like a month ago where I was in some guy who's a billionaire in the biotech industry's house, and then he had Sips. I think that's the name of the company, and they highlight.
Sip NYC, right?
What's it called? Say it again.
Sip NYC.
I think it's Sip NYC if I'm not mistaken. And they carry a whole bunch of black owned or the like just liquors that are from minority owned,
Yes.
companies, right? Yeah.
Yes, we work with them a lot.
Yeah, so they was amazing. They I got introduced to some new alcohols, wines, and like spritzers and other beverages, and I got a really good education. And this guy was like, if you are a billionaire or millionaire, or whoever is throwing events, you should be rocking with this organization so that every event should be hosted and to support all these black owned businesses, these minority owned
Absolutely.
businesses. And I love that energy. And also it was an education lesson for me. And then I also learned how difficult it has been for minorities in this space.
Absolutely.
What has been your experience like, and what can you tell us to this new revolution of how we're coming in and what it has been like before, now, and looking into the future?
So I think what I'm loving is the fact that there are so many brands that are coming into this space. When I started, it literally was maybe like 10 brands.
Hmm.
Um, and I reached out to all of them. And I think out of the 10, I think there was one that was distributed in New York.
Mm.
So again, not just getting into the space is hard because again, you need money.
Hmm.
Um, and you need a product that's going to be superior, right? I think anything that Black people do, we have to make sure that it's like exceptional. So you need money for that.
Hmm.
And especially going into spaces that we have typically never been, like having champagne out of Champagne, France, or
Hmm.
cognac out of cognac, so that is space. These are spaces that have never been touched, right, by us.
Hmm.
And so, one, just getting into the space is a huge accomplishment.
Hmm.
But two, I think what has been not hard, but I think what has been more difficult for a lot of these brands is getting distribution. So I can't just buy direct from a brand. I would have to go through a distributor in New York that would have to ship the product to me.
Mm.
So even for them to get distribution, that's hard because a lot of the times what you find is that a lot of the distributors not necessarily don't believe in the brand, but they have so many people in their book, so many brands in their book that have done well for them, taking a chance on bringing your product in. Um, I think a lot of the times they don't want to take the chance on having products sit on their shelves in their warehouse. So
Hmm.
for them, distribution is huge. I've had to connect a lot of different brands through distribution, but also we use an online platform. So I'll literally reach out to the brands and be like, hey, get on this platform prior to you getting distribution out in NY. And a lot of the times I buy it from them directly online, and they get to ship it directly to me. And then a few months later, they're like, hey, by the way, we're off this. We're now with distribution because they can show sales are amazing. They are a viable brand that any distributor would want to get on their in their warehouse. But with that, I think that has been the toughest. It's getting, you see all these brands, and I have so many people reach out every day like, hey, you guys should carry this, you should carry that. A lot of the times it's not because we don't want to carry it, it's just because they don't have distribution. And even some brands that come
Mhm.
into the store, I've probably been working with them for like
Mhm.
over a year on getting their product in, and trying to get them distribution. And it's been tough, but that is
Yeah.
why we say when you're a part of the Happy Cork family, like you are Happy Cork family, because we will get you from concept to completion.
Yeah, I love that. Man, when you were talking, I was like, man, we should like somehow get our own black owned distribution company just to house all these
There are a couple. There are a couple.
the
There are a couple,
there are.
and one of them, that's here in New York, Black Hawk. They're awesome because they do carry a good few Black-owned brands as well. So yeah, there are a couple, but we that's definitely an untapped part of the industry that I think we can totally get in on. Especially if there's a huge push for all of these amazing brands. Why not?
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, when you're talking, it kind of reminds me of, hip hop in the 90s, when we had all these amazing musicians and you had, like five major distribution outlets to get the CDs and
Yep.
cassettes and stuff out there that you had to go to. So,
And you
how
were
do
one
we
in a million if you were able to get signed.
Yeah. So how do we like take what we learned from that, but do it better so that these brands can thrive and flourish and get to the consumers that want and need their product. Yeah. So I like that
And
you
I
you
again, going back to, doing a distribution company, that would be amazing.
yeah, absolutely. Now I'm just curious. I gotta ask you about this Black Girl Magic bottle about that's behind you in your background.
Yes.
What is that? And break it down. Where could I get me some of this Black Girl Magic?
So Black Girl Magic was created by the McBride sisters.
Okay.
McBride sisters, a lot of people know them from Black Girl Magic, but McBride sisters have been in business. They were one of the first Black-owned wine brands, especially Black women-owned wine brands out
Mhm.
in the country. Um, And so at the time, they had the McBride Sisters collection, which we carried the entire collection.
Mhm.
But they had a beautiful collection of wines, and then I believe now it's probably like 4 or 5 years, 4 years ago, launched the black no 3 years ago launched the Black Girl Magic collection, which
Mhm.
includes a Riesling, a rosé, a red blend, um, a brut, and like a couple more Merlot and a few more
Mhm.
varietals that they have under their belt. The reason why, I mean, one, it's Black Girl Magic, so you're gonna want to drink anything that says Black Girl Magic. But the reason why the brand has been also so successful is because it's a really great wine brand. I mean, every single wine in their collection is beautiful.
Mhm.
And I think that's what sets us apart, even with Happy Cork, because we do taste everything that comes into the store before it even gets in. But I think another thing that sets us off is the fact that we don't have just anything on the shelves. It's not because it's minority owned. We tell people, you come in, you
Mhm.
try the wines, they're all amazing, and then by the way, they happen to be Black owned.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. So, I gotta get me some of this Black Girl Magic now. I'm out in Cali.
You
Is there
have
a
to.
place that I?
You have
Is there a
to.
place? Do you know any places out in Cali, or do I have to come all the way to New
Oh,
York
there are
to
a
see
few
you?
places, but you have to come to New York. We also ship. So you can definitely check us out online, and we have an app also.
What? You
So
got
for
an
sure,
app? Oh,
we
you
have an
next
app.
level
So
with
we're available
yours.
for Android and Apple in the App Store. So, yep, download the app. We always have like tons of savings on there, but we also like promote a lot of the really dope things that we're doing, like having different wine brands come in for tastings, and we do like mixology classes. So, it's definitely good to stay updated from our app.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna have to download that. Y'all hear that, ladies and gentlemen? They got an app. Download the app now. All right. So one more question before to end off the journey piece and then talk about a little bit more of the career aspect. Like, you've done so much in a short period of time. If you could do it all over again, what would you do differently?
Um, Nothing.
No.
I don't know. Nothing. I just feel like I again is going back to like my outlook on life, and I feel like we are where we are in the journey we're on, how we're supposed to be doing it. So I don't know if changing anything, if anything would have changed. Would that have changed my course? So
Hmm.
it's kind of like, would I change anything? Not really.
Yeah.
Not really.
Understandable. Understandable. So now I want to switch gears just a little bit because I like to give people more context to the get coming into your career, right? Because a lot of people, they get inspired by the stories like, I'm gonna go into the wine industry. That's my thing, right? And I like to give more context to how that works, right? Um, One thing I like to start off is I like to ask people, what their first job was, because sometimes when I go out to speak at high schools or colleges, some of the students who graduate from college, they think they should get into their first thing that they aspired to do and make that six
Yes.
figures, which that does not
Yes.
happen.
That
People
does
from
not
high school
happen.
think so too. They think, as soon as I graduate, I'm a this is the ideal I have, and I'm gonna go get a job in that industry, work my way up. It does not always happen that way. So, what was your first job,
No.
Sunshine?
If we go way, way back, my first job was working for my mom. My mom is like the entrepreneur of the century. She's had everything from clothing brands to a restaurant to retail stores. Um,
Hmm.
and I think looking back, my first real job was like literally cutting flowers out to paste on t-shirts because she had a tourist
Oh.
store. So I think that was kind of my first job. I didn't get paid for it. I got free food
Hmm.
and living, but like I think that was probably my first job. And then after that, I worked at the Gap.
Okay.
So I worked at the Gap for years, for like 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
Got through college, and then from the Gap, like during my college experience, I went to school for design. So during my college experience, I had this like I was just like, I'm going to do vintage.
Hmm.
And so I started selling vintage clothing while I'm going to school, selling vintage clothing to the point where and this was back in Miami, and then to the point where my vintage took off, and I was able to actually launch a retail space
Oh.
in Miami while I'm in school with like friends as my like shop attendants. So that
Wow.
was, I would say that was my real first dab into on real entrepreneurship. I
Uh-huh.
used to do like a vintage market on Lincoln Road, and like parties, like vintage parties. And so I was like, oh, if I can make this happen, I can do a retail store. Um, and so my friend actually, Kay Fox, she's on the radio in Miami.
Yeah.
I used to dress her. She was back then, she was like on the radio with DJ Khaled.
Uh-huh.
So she used to like she was one of my muses, and I used to dress her for events and all kinds of stuff. So yesterday she sent me like a video going back to where I had my store, which at the time was like Little Haiti. Now it is the Miami Design District,
Uh-huh.
and it is Hermes across the street, Louis Vuitton, all these different stores. And at the time, it was just literally like a place no one wanted to go to. So I kind of have
Wow.
like, I think I have like a streak for finding like places that no one kind of ventures to.
And then refining the space.
And then refining and making it like a destination space, because it really became okay. And it was called Best Kept Secrets. So it really was a hidden gem that you had to like seek out and make an appointment and come to it. So yeah, I definitely think I have a knack for finding spaces that I have to bring people to.
Yeah, y'all make sure y'all let the people know when y'all put Sunshine Foss's name down in history that she was one of the first.
I was
So
one of the first. I was one of the first.
make sure you let her know she was one of the first. Oh man, I
Yes.
love it. So I'm up here looking. All right. So now that we know that was your first job, um, let's go into you starting this Happy Cork.
Yes.
I know people are going to get inspired by this story and journey, and some people may be interested now in starting this as a career journey for them. When you think about getting into your industry, what were some of the first steps that you took to really get in your industry that you would kind of tell other folks on how to get into the spirits or the wine industry, no matter where they're at, like to be maybe a dealer, a store, starting up their own brand, whatever it is in this industry? What some things you tell folks?
So for me, starting in the industry, it was definitely I found a lot of I found people like good, really great people. So if like
Mm-hmm.
even, getting started, like I knew I wanted to carry majority black owned, women owned. So I had a full on I had a niche that I wanted to kind of attack. However, going through and seeing that there aren't that many brands that I could act. I would literally probably have one brand on the shelf if at the time depended on just like, okay, that's it. That's all I'm gonna get. So it's definitely being persistent in this industry, knowing what you want. I definitely believe in finding a niche and not just like, hey, I'm gonna do this. Whether it's like you're like, hey, I want to focus on sustainable brands or organic brands or natural wines, or minority owned. But I think finding a niche and not just kind of like, because everybody can sell just anything, right? But I think having a product that is unique, really speaks volumes. But also too, I think having a product that you believe in. So every single one of these brands in here, again, going back to the fact that we do taste them, we can speak to each and every one of them, and they're here for a reason. So I think standing behind a brand, falling in love with the brands, um, doing your research on the brands, like you can, from every single product that's in here, there's a story behind it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a story behind the winemaker, the spirit maker. So I think diving deep into whatever industry that you're in, I think is like huge. For me, having a retail space, even though I said I would never have a retail space, but I'm here now. So for me, it was just like I know every single aspect of this space. From, you can ask me, I'm, you know, 2 million miles away, and you can be like, hey, where is the orange wine? Da, 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 da. And I can tell you where it is on the shelf in the stock room as well as on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And I think really being a part of your business is huge.
Yeah.
So again, that research, figuring out what you got, making sure that it's a good product. I think all of that is a combination of, really creating a brand such as Happy Cork.
Yeah. Now, if you could pick one lesson to tell a new, business owner coming into your industry, what would it be?
Um, I think I told a lot. But I think um Godspeed.
Godspeed. Okay, hold on. Break that down. What's that mean?
I think any coming into this industry is tough. It's not, for the faint of heart. You're going to be working. Think about it. There's millions of wine brands on the shelf. So for you to have a product that stands out, if you're coming in on the wine side as a winemaker or a spirits maker, it's definitely making sure that your product is set apart. Um, Another big key aspect of doing that is researching different. I have so many people come in with like really great products, but the packaging is off, So making sure that your brand right, making sure that you go and do your research on what other brand labels look like, having something unique where there's not just in the actual bottle. The juice is amazing, but people fall in love with the bottle before they even fall in love with the juice. So definitely having some sort of shelf appeal, having your brand look good on the shelf. You have a couple labels, don't get it printed on a bottle yet. Send it to a few people,
Mm-hmm.
send it to a few wine stores, ask for advice. Hey, would this sit nice on your shelf? I think that's key, is definitely having that appeal when it comes to like as the wine brand or the spirits brand
Mm-hmm.
on a shelf trying to get into retail. And then I would say anyone getting into the retail side of this industry, know your product. Definitely know your product. I think also to be as innovative as possible. I think a lot of people see Happy Cork as like, okay, you're a wine store, but we offer like classes, mixology classes. We're huge on social, so we
Mm-hmm.
we try to make sure that we keep everyone entertained. It's about like knowing the brand. I run all the social media, so you really are getting my personality on social media, and I think people want to see people's
Mm-hmm.
personalities. So I think that's definitely a huge thing, is being a part of the brand and making the brand like you are the brand. You can be completely separate from the brand, but again, you are the brand.
Yeah, I think that's something I appreciated about you throughout our conversation as well. Getting to know you as, that first half, getting to know you as part of the brand and your story and how it has evolved and then also knowing the brand too and the brand story. And you've done a good job at blending, merging, and also still keeping them separate, but so much intertwined with each other. So I love that aspect and facade of you. Now
Thank you.
flipping from the business side to the personal side, what is one good lesson life has taught you?
I think one lesson that I've definitely learned is that life is super short.
Mm,
You're not promised tomorrow. So for me, I try to, especially in my personal life, I try to make sure that I'm not working on the weekend. Well, I mean, I work on the weekends remotely and all kinds of stuff. But I mean, I try not to come into the spaces on the weekends just because I want to make sure that I spend enough time with my kids. I try to go home at a certain time, to make sure that like I'm cooking dinner for the kids. We are having homework done. Because definitely I think, you put so much time into everything, into business, into all of that kind of stuff. And then you're like,
hmm.
okay, you did all of that for what? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, my aunt passed away a few years ago,
Hmm.
and, she was like my mom. She really was my second mom.
Hmm.
But she passed away, and all I could remember is her saying, and because she was young, she was 55, and
Hmm.
all she could say was, I can't wait till I'm 60. She's going to retire. She's going to do the next phase of her life. And she saved and she worked and she never missed a day of work.
Hmm.
And all of that, like, did you really enjoy life? Because again, you were waiting for this day. So like even for us, we like wait for the weekend because the weekend is going to be
Mm.
like our time off. But then you're like
Hmm.
forgetting all about the rest of the week, because
Yeah.
that's 5 days you forget, and just to have two.
Yeah.
So I
So
definitely
true.
think having kind of like my life lesson is definitely kind of enjoy you're here, make it fun, make it cool. Yes, you're going to have those days where you're just like, oh my god, today's Monday. But again, it's definitely like life is short, make
Hmm.
it make sense.
Yeah. Life is short. Grab a bottle of wine and enjoy your time.
Exactly. I'm going to take that little clip and I'm going to put it on.
uh, what's what's one thing I'm curious to know this? What's one thing you can't work without?
One thing I can't work without is probably my phone.
Okay.
And it's not that I'm on my phone. I'm the worst person when it comes to the phones. Like, I will not probably speak to someone for like months or not get back to your text message for like days. And it's not purposely. It's just literally, I'm really bad at phones. I hate it. It gives me
Mm-hmm.
anxiety. However, I do a lot of my work on the phone. Again, I manage all the social media. I can enter stock when it comes in remotely.
Mm-hmm.
I can um, do pictures and everything that you could ever think of right from my phone.
Yeah.
So I think for me, my phone, but not in the sense of I need to be on the phone or texting or none of that. It's just like work wise, it's super helpful. So technology, thank you for that.
Absolutely. Um, what are some books or podcasts that have helped you on your journey?
So I think first off, I need to read more. I definitely need to read a lot more because I have not had time to actually sit down and pick up a book in a few months, in a while.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but if I would say help me on the journey, um, I do listen to good podcasts. Earn Your Leisure has a really good podcast that I
Love
like.
the guys that Earn Your Leisure.
Um, I love Earn Your Leisure. MG, the mortgage guy, he has like a nice podcast as well.
I see you keeping it all
Um,
New York, huh? You keeping it all New York.
you know what it is? Because again, it's like there's nothing like New York in terms of the industry that we're in. Like no industry in New York runs like any industry
Right.
anywhere. Like from taxes to I mean, from real estate investing, it is different. New York
Right.
is different. So for me, it's definitely, I think keeping it New York has been, we try to do a lot of like, we'll go to like a lot of events, like Brooklyn Bank does a lot of really great events.
Right.
We're now in the cannabis space. So I listen to a lot of like cannabis podcasts.
Nice.
Yeah,
Love it.
I
Love it.
think but in terms of like reading, I need to like start reading
Right.
a
But now, I
nice
mean, you
book.
got the knowledge right there. You got the mentors. You got the podcasts, which are an informal way of getting knowledge without doing the reading. And so I think that's
Yeah, but
a really
there's nothing like old school reading and like
right,
grabbing a book and sitting on a beach and reading for the day. Yeah.
right. True
I need
that.
to do
True
that.
that. So we'll put that on the bucket list for the future. We're
That's
gonna
on the bucket list. That's on the bucket list. When I
grab
get
a
time.
bottle of wine, enjoy your time, read a book.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. So, what do you think the future has in store for this industry, especially when you see more Black and brown people in the space?
So I think it's becoming a super diverse industry, which I love to see. And that's across the board from you have at the time we opened, there were 3 Black sommeliers in the world.
Mm-hmm.
3, like out of the hundreds, you have 3. So that in itself was kind of like jarring when I got into the industry and I'm like, 3 Psalms, that's weird. But then now you're seeing like an emerging like community of Psalms and wine experts and women that just love to drink wine, men that love to talk about wine. Um, on the spirit side, you're seeing so many brands emerging that are like friends that went to high school together that decided they created to create a brand.
Mm-hmm.
So I think on every avenue I'm seeing a growth that is so beautiful just because again as I said, we started there were like 10 brands. Now we are 90% of our stores Black owned
Mm-hmm.
brands, and that is across the board from anything from orange wines to your liquor side. So for us, I think seeing just like this shift in the industry, it's amazing to see, and I just feel like the future, like the sky's the limit. You have like Uncle Nearest, who is
Mm-hmm.
owned by an amazing Black woman,
Mm-hmm.
that is now the number one spirits brand in the country, probably the world. But like to have that happen
Mm-hmm.
where an industry that was so untapped. It's just like it's gonna get much better. It's gonna
Hmm.
get, and then you have people like Fawn Weaver from Uncle Nearest, and Dia Sims from Pronghorn doing like grants to the different spirit people in the different spirits industry. So you have backing now, money that's coming in. So it's just the growth that I'm seeing. I'm just like, yes, this is what I've been waiting for. I'm
Yeah.
super excited to see that.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, Uncle Nearest. I just recently learned because I'm a whiskey drinker. Learned about him and how he's the force behind Jack Daniels. I was like,
Yep.
what? How did I not
Yep.
know this?
No one knew it.
Hey,
No one knew.
hey,
But now the story is out, and it's a beautiful story because it's kind of full circle, because the great great granddaughter of Uncle Nearest is the
mhm,
master blender on the whiskey, which is like Victoria Butler. To see like one of the first and only Black women to be a master blender, and she's the great great granddaughter of Uncle Nearest. How
mhm.
full circle is that?
Yeah, that is full circle. Um, when you look down the line, what do you want your legacy to be?
I don't know if I have a legacy to leave. I don't. I
You,
just feel
girl,
like
you tripping. You tripping. All that black girl magic in that bottle there. You better talk your talk.
I know. You know what? I feel like um I want I want to be able to say that I've helped like this industry to become diverse, to
Mhm,
open up to people that were not typically in this space. Um, the fact that we've been able to help so many different brands get into this space, from I've found somebody to make the wine, to distribute it, to, I just want to make sure that we've made an impact enough to be able to say we've created space for people to be able to, because this industry is huge, why
mhm,
not have such a diverse industry, reach so many different people all around the world. And I would love to be able to say, oh, we had a part to play in that. We
mhm.
sure did.
Yeah, I could say just meeting you and then hearing your story and your testimony and knowing that there's a little girl or a young man of color that's going to walk past your spot is going to inspire generations to come. So Sunshine Foss, I thank you. I salute you. I wish we can go 2 hours and do this, but my
I know.
podcast is not like Joe Rogan. So let's end it off like this. What projects are you currently working on and where can people find you?
So as I mentioned earlier, we have just joined the cannabis space. So we launched a CBD and wellness store in December of 2021 called Happy Buds. So you have Happy Cork, wine and spirits, and then you have Happy Buds, which is everything cannabis, from accessories to flower to everything in between. Right, also here in the Bed-Stuy area. Another nice thing about Happy Buds is the fact that we also have a large assortment of Black-owned, women-owned, minority-owned brands in the space, with a beautiful event side to it as well. So
Mhm,
that is definitely our new happy place, equally happy as Happy Cork. And then we're also opening up a tasting space right here at Happy Cork. Um, which will be completely separate from Happy Cork. There will be a membership based option. So you will be able to be a member, buy a bottle of wine, and then go to the tasting space and drink with your friends. So that's a good one. And then you can also find us on Instagram and Facebook at Happy Cork Brooklyn, and Happy Buds Brooklyn. And then also we're online at Happy Dash Cork, and also we have an app in the app store, so Happy Cork, and we also have a Happy Buds app if anyone's interested. um but yeah, that I think that's all of our details. And we're also, Happy Cork is located right in Bed-Stuy, 51 Buffalo Ave.
Wow, I love it. Biggie would be so proud.
Yeah, I try to make Biggie proud every day.
Well, thank you, Sunshine, for coming on, bringing sunshine, bringing happiness. Happy Cork. I look, your Brad and your Dave both play on each other. Like that's wordplay all day.
And listen, I can't have a happy place and my name is Sunshine and not be happy. So we're bringing the joy. We're bringing the joy.
And don't worry, for those of you who were driving and listening, I'm gonna get all of Sunshine's information so that I can throw all those details in the show notes, so you can just click on it, download the app, visit the store, the website, and anything that she has coming up. Any last words of wisdom, Sunshine, for the people before we head out?
Be good. Be good, people. Be good. Just like be good and live life to the fullest.
Love it. Be good and live life to the fullest. Couldn't have said it any better. That's our show for the day, and we will see you on the next time.
Thank you for having me.